completely understand that my sexual history made it very difficult to connect with my husband when we first got married, because you got all these soul ties, you got all these memories of how this situation went with this person, how this person's penis looks and feels, and as a man, I would imagine if you've been promiscuous, your mind is constantly going, comparing what one vagina does and what the other one doesn't, or how comfortable a woman is over how comfortable another woman isn't. When you have all of these scenarios to compare, yes, it's going to make marriage very difficult. Welcome back to another episode of Marjorie Reacts. We're doing this whatever podcast, so sit back and enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, please, before we get started. I'll wait.
Maybe I do to like certain people.
Last thing from you, Atlas, in your pre-show notes to us, you said, I guess one of my hot takes is asking people's body count is immature.
Yeah. Okay. Why I don't even have a high body count, but like I have friends
Sorry.
Well, maybe I do to like certain people or something like that.
Okay.
But I don't know. Because I watch a lot of dating podcasts of, it seems to be like quite a bit older people than like you, and and their take on stuff like that, I kind of think is true. Like, it seems like people who are older and more mature aren't really having those conversations, and maybe it's because the woman or the man is not giving the vibe that they're sketchy promiscuous, so we don't need to talk about your exes.
That's
like, it's
because
not
the boomers grew up during the sexual revolution, and they're all degenerate.
So the guys,
I'm kidding.
The two guys that I watch, I think they're like in their mid 40s.
This was before the HIV. Okay, I don't know. Wait, was it? Hold on.
They're like in their mid 40s. I think I listed their names on my application of the people I listen to. He's like, I don't want to give them free publicity, but yeah, I just feel like depending on how that conversation comes up, okay, I think there is a certain way it could come up, like kind of when I was like questioning him on it and the way he explained it, I can get it. But I think the way it typically tends to come up is just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's
why do you feel like it's not like an appropriate question to ask? I know it depends
on context.
Do you think it's fair for a man to care about that?
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think, but I also not to a certain extent.
So
right. So it's like,
to what extent do you think it's fair?
If you're worried that they are so promiscuous that they could maybe have an addiction, they could cheat on you, or maybe they have an STD.
That sounds like some great reasons.
So
yeah, I agree with this body count stuff. It's such a sketchy topic. The only man I feel like should care about body count is a man who doesn't have a high body count. If you're a man or a woman and you have a low body count, that's the only time you should care about when somebody how many bodies somebody got on their roster. If you somebody who been hopping around bedroom to bedroom, catching every person in a club who says you cute, if you one of them people, you should not be male or female. You should not be picky on when picking a partner what their body count is. I think that's hypocritical. If you got a high body count, make sure you stick around in the dating pool with people who have a high body count. It just keeps where you can't judge each other. But if you're kind of a prude, stick with prudes, I think. But it's not always the case. But it would make sense in an ideal world. But we don't know. It could go anyway. We don't know.
Well, I think those are great reasons.
To what degree do you think it's not fair for a man to care?
to what degree do I think it's not fair for men to care? If you don't give off any of those vibes, like you guys have a really good relationship, you're not scandalous, he knows you're not promiscuous, maybe he knows that you've been checked and you are clean. It's like, why does it matter?
I'll tell you why it matters. If a woman has a body count of 50, for example, and I find that out, I'm going to be asking.
Is that where the high starts? Like, where's the
Oh,
like?
it's lower than that.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me-
like
I
for
wanna
me,
know.
once it starts getting into double digits for me, like I'm going to start asking questions like, okay, like, you know, tell me about your past, right? If she starts getting to like 15, 20, 30, like past 20, it's like, okay, what, like, I want to take a close look at it. What's actually happened here, especially the younger a woman is, because if a person has a series of failed relationships over and over again, especially a woman, there could be a lot of things that happen there. It's like, okay, what were you doing? Were you doing one night stands for like a few years, constantly getting railed by guys at bars?
Can I ask?
What's up?
So did it come up in conversation with you and your girlfriend? And if so, like, how did it come up then?
It did. And I asked her, but out of respect for her, I don't want to say anything more about that conversation.
Yeah, no, of course.
But yeah, it did. Like I asked her just very frankly. And it was like, initially she was like, whoa, like, why are you asking me that? And
At
then
what
like,
point?
And then what did you say?
once like we started to know that like we were interested in one another and it was like mutual, like there was a mutual understanding, then I asked.
And what was your reasoning though? Because she was thrown off, right? She was like, whoa, where's this coming from? And you were like, well, this is why I want to know. Like, what was your like, this is why I want to know?
It's a great question. Basically exactly what I'm describing to you. So, and I'll add some context. There's a lot of data on the number of premarital sexual partners somebody's had and what their likelihood of divorce is in marriage.
And that was your idea, like going in, you're like, I want to know.
Yeah, that's
one of the main reasons.
Once I saw the data on like body count and the number of partners either a man or a woman has had, I was like, yo, this is an important thing because my parents got divorced and I want to do everything I possibly can to minimize the chances of ever getting divorced to my partner. Like it's the worst thing that you can ever go through in marriage, obviously. And so it's like there's a lot of different factors that go into divorce.
What he talking about? What is he talking about? The worst thing? No. Divorce is not the worst thing you can go through in a marriage. The worst thing you can go through in a marriage is staying with somebody who hates you, who's been whooping your tail the last 15, 20 years. That's the worst thing you could go through. Divorce, sometimes it got to happen. Even as a Christian, I don't care how Christian you are. If you're in a relationship, 9 times out of 10, people are in relationships with people God already told them don't marry. I saw a story on Dear Future Wifey. I love his show. He had a woman on there. She was married to her husband for 20 something years, but she was very clearly able to recall before she married him, God telling her, don't marry him. She was able to recall, but she's going back and forth with the Lord. Like, well, we already sent out. This is what she said. This was her words. The beautiful woman. She became a beautiful success story in the end, but she's bargaining with God. Well, Lord, I already bought the wedding invitations. I already invited everybody. Everybody already paid. So she's basically saying, Lord, well, I know you're telling me not to marry this person, but it's too late because I've already made all these plans. And she dealt with 20 years of hell is what she did. And you know what was so mind-boggling to me? Even Lateris, the host of Dear Future Wifey, I love him. He's great at what he does. But even him cheating on his wife, he divorced her. Somebody explain this to me. Explain this to me. How and why is the cheater the one filing for divorce? What the world? How does that happen? Somebody please explain this to me. I don't understand it. They cheating on you 20 years. And even that woman said with she got a cake business. That was a really good episode. I'm gonna put the link in the bio. That was a really good episode. But even she said he filed for divorce after he was doing all the cheating. Why does this happen? I don't understand that. That just makes no sense to me. But yeah, the worst thing divorce is not the worst thing that can happen. I don't know what he talking about. Yeah, let's clarify that.
Divorce. Maybe one person is really bad at listening to the other. Maybe one person is like lazy, whatever. But the number of premarital sexual partners somebody's had, it's like a direct correlation. The higher that number, the higher the chances of divorce. So to give you an example, a virgin on average has less than 5% chance of getting divorced. Somebody with more than 10 sexual partners on average, 50% chance of getting divorced. That's a big deal. And this is for both sexes. That's a big deal. So if you're somebody who really cares about marriage and you don't want to get divorced, especially as a man, because men get absolutely screwed in divorce, you want to ask those questions. And so I was very upfront with her. I was like, this is why I'm optimizing for marriage. This is why I care. And it's like, there's different reasons other than that why it matters. It's like if somebody was a serial monogamist, for example, that's different than if they were cheating on their ex-partner, which is different than if they were getting railed at bars all the time. Like you want to know about the person's psychology. And when you have that conversation, you can gain insight into like, who are you? How do you approach relationships? And if you care about marriage, you can gain valuable information there.
Annie, it looked like you had something to say.
Because I must be an anomaly.
You guys speak into your mic.
I must be an anomaly because my husband never asked that question.
Well, most guys in your generation don't. Like it's kind of like an our generation thing.
So here's the thing though. Rahab was related to Jesus Christ. So was Tamar.
She preaching.
They had some bad mojo before they were with their husbands.
Mm-hmm.
So
She preaching.
Oh, okay.
if you're going to truly be Christ-like, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm not trying to disrespect you.
Ooh.
I don't feel
That's not going to
disrespected.
matter. Because that person, if you love them, that what they've done before does not matter.
I didn't even have to say it. She said it.
So
It doesn't matter. And
Hold
I've
on,
married
hold on,
14 years
hold on.
now.
Is like, I just want to know if you're.
It's just
slut,
not fair.
you
It's
know?
not fair. That's
okay,
all I'm saying.
Okay,
It's not fair.
I hear what you're
What do you
saying.
mean it's not fair?
Hold on.
Wait, let me say one thing. Let me say
It's
one
just
thing.
not fair.
The life's unfair. The world's unfair. Women curve short dudes because they're short.
Brian, you get a pass
Sorry,
because you're not
Kings.
these two dudes.
Wait, what do you mean?
No, so here's the thing.
Because
so
these
here's the
guys
thing.
are Christ
You're
followers.
saying
They're
you're
supposed
saying,
to have grace for women in all areas.
Just because
There's-
we're Christian doesn't mean we have to marry prostitutes.
They can have
No,
preference.
I'm not telling you guys to do that. But
Everyone can have
how,
preference.
you know what? Rahab was redeemed by a spy. I just preached on this at a church on Sunday. She was redeemed by a spy that cared enough for her when the walls came down at Jericho to take her out of that lifestyle.
But isn't that the
Hey, that's
exception to
good.
the rule? And when you look at your
not gonna
lifestyle,
marry
even
her.
you say maybe I'm the exception. Yes, girl, you are the
Simple.
exception. Look at the
But it can
upbringing
happen.
that you had, and
I
look
want
at
him to
everything that
expand.
you.
I want him to expand his mind and not be so judgmental
All right,
to
so
someone
hold
he
on,
could
hold on.
possibly love.
My
Hold on,
mind is
hold on.
fully expanded. I will not
Hold on.
marry a prostitute.
She said it. I did not even have to say it, honey, because I like I've talked in some of my other videos. I had a past, honey, as a teenager. I was wild as a teenager. I'm like, my body count don't even matter at this point. I've been married almost 20 years, but before I was 18 years old, I'd had 15 partners, male and female. Now let's tell the truth now. Let's tell it, because this world got you this world has people so brainwashed that if you're a virgin, something's wrong with you. If you're a prude, something's wrong with you. So it's almost like you see teenagers even today have to have a relationship, gotta have a boyfriend, gotta have a girlfriend. Dude, you're 14. Sister, you 17. Why you got to have somebody on your arm? Why is this? But we're brainwashed so young. And the adults, Lord Jesus, that's a whole other conversation with these grown folks pushing these teenage relationships. That's a whole other conversation. I'm going to try to stay on track. But I'm totally with that pink hair sister. Yes, when you got Jesus in it, it cancels out everything. I won't say myself and my husband. It was all cookies and flowers and cupcakes in the beginning. It was rough, and he's absolutely right. I feel like this. I won't even say I feel like I completely understand that my sexual history made it very difficult to connect with my husband when we first got married, because you got all these soul ties, you got all these memories of how this situation went with this person, how this person's penis looks and feels, and as a man, I would imagine if you've been promiscuous, your mind is constantly going comparing vaginas, comparing what one vagina does and what the other one doesn't, or how comfortable a woman is over how comfortable another woman isn't. When you have all of these scenarios to compare, yes, it's going to make marriage very difficult. And I I totally understand and agree with what he's saying about body count being correlated with divorce. Body count being correlated with people not even getting married. Never mind divorce. People is not even getting married. So I completely agree with both of these people. But Jesus Christ makes the difference. Jesus Christ will heal you, and hear your prayer, and he forgives. Thank the Lord. And like that sister said, men, not just men and women have to have grace for each other, have enough grace, because God gives us grace. So have grace for your spouse. My husband, he dealt with a lot of trauma because of things I put him through when we were teenagers. You know, I had my daughter when I was 15. He was 17. And in that process, I did a lot of sleeping around. He did his own little thing, but we ain't talking about him. We're talking about me. I can only share my story. You'll hear his story, Lord willing, one day. But I did a lot of sleeping around, and it was not. I got tired before I turned 18. I was done. I was burnt out before I turned 18. So I don't know how these people go decade after decade. That's why these people looking shriveled up. People looking shriveled up. They look sad. They looking miserable because they've been giving it all up. Men and women both. Shriveled up, wore out, because they giving their souls and their body to everybody everywhere they go. It's a fascinating thing, and I love what she said. I'm so glad she interjected.
I'm not saying that they're still doing it.
Annie, may I please respond to everything that you just said? Okay. There is room for Christ-like love, and there is also room for wisdom and discernment in terms of who you are entering a marital contract into. Okay, you can forgive someone for their past. Someone can have a past. That doesn't mean that you're obligated to marry them. Okay, so if I'm having a conversation with a woman and she has a past, but she regrets her past and she's repentant of it. Let's say, maybe she had like a bad pattern in her past. Maybe she, was looking for love in all the wrong places, something like that. And she developed a habit of sleeping with men too easily or something. Like, that is something that a person can learn from. And there's also absolutely room for Christ-like forgiveness for something like that. There's no question. Everybody can be made new again in Christ. Okay. Why I would care though still as a man is because I want to know what happened there, because if I'm going to get married to you, unless we're signing a prenup or something like that, like I need to know, who are you? How do you approach relationships? I can have forgiveness for your past, but how do you approach relationships? Because here in America, we've got no fault divorce. Is there something there that might lead you one day to just decide you want to divorce me and absolutely screw me and take my kids and half my income and everything like that? Is there something that could be lurking there? Because if there is, I want to know about it. I'm not obligated to marry a woman with a past. If I'm entering into a contract with somebody, I want to know who I'm entering into that contract with. But you can still love them and forgive them. What'd you say?
You don't have to be a prostitute to do that, divorce someone and take all their money. Okay, there's plenty of women
Exactly.
that do that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
come
there
on,
are.
man.
There are, which is and most people nowadays are not prudent about who they marry. Most marriages end in divorce. A lot of people just get up in their feelings and they fall in love with somebody and they don't have the really hard conversations. They don't ask the really tough questions, both men and women. A lot of women don't vet men properly for their red flags. A lot of women end up with men who are abusive. Yeah, a man could have had an abusive past. A man could have been a murderer. It's a woman's job to see if that was the case, because if he was a murderer, she can forgive him and have Christ-like love for him. But is she still obligated to marry him? Would it be a good idea?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you just have to open your mind, because what if there is a person that you meet, and I'm going to pray that for you, by the way.
You're going to pray for him
to run into
girl?
a woman that's he can't handle the attraction he has, and it's so strong that it's actually spiritual too.
Look.
And he's like,
Ooh, she going into witchcraft.